me in the Jamboard. All right, awesome. So let's get thinking. Now, if you have the printed notes, this is on those printed notes. If not, just follow along with me. You don't necessarily need to write this part down. I will highlight that really important stuff we want to label. So let's first label the coefficients A, B, and C in each polynomial. So we got two. Oop, I switched pages on my iPad. Sorry. We got two quadratics here. I want to label my A, B, and C. Okay, I'm going to give everybody about 20 seconds to think of their A, B, and C, and then I'll call on some random people. All right, you guys can see on your screen, I've written some names there. Those are the names of people I want to give me those values. So for my A value in the first one, I want Bethany to give that to me. You can just throw that in the chat. I would like Tyler to give me the B value for that equation. And I would like Miriam to give me the C value. Again, just throw it in the chat. For our second one, I would like Promise to give me our A value, Harley to give me the B value, and Anaya to give me the C value. Just throw it in the chat for me. Tyler, yep, we got 5. You don't even need that X, just the number. We got 5. And then our C value for Miriam is 6. Good. Bethany, we got 1 as our A value. Nice work. I'm still waiting on Promise and Anaya to give me those last 2 A and C values. Harley, you gave me my B value of 3. Awesome job. Anaya, nice work. We got -7 as our C value. Promise, you got that A value for me? All right, can somebody else in the chat give me my A value for that second one? Thank you. Yep, Akaya and Bethany, you are both correct. 4 is my A value here. So let's look. That top one definitely looks like what we've been dealing with in the last week. What's the big difference between that first one and the second one? Obviously, there are a bunch of differences, but what's the really big one that's going to cause us a little bit of grief here? Kai.
A doesn't equal 1 in the second equation.
Yeah, our A value does not equal 1. Remember that last week when we talked about factoring and finding zeros, when we factored using that method we did last week, your A value absolutely needed to equal 1. So since our A value is actually 4 here, that means if I'm trying to find zeros, I can't use factoring. So now I'm thinking to myself, oh no, nothing my math teacher has taught me is going to work. What can I possibly do here? All right, and this is where our quadratic formula comes in. So I am now on frame 5 of our Jamboard. And it says we use the quadratic formula to find the roots when A is not equal to 1. Now, if you are writing this on a separate sheet of paper, you need to write down what you see on this frame. This is a very important frame for us, because it tells us when to use this quadratic formula. It also tells us what the quadratic formula is. And I told you it was going to look scary. I warned you. It is this whole big thing. All right, that is our quadratic formula. And again, I know it looks horrible. We will work through it. We can do this together, guys. It will be okay. But I do need you to write this down, because you guys have a little bit of an advantage. Generally speaking, this is something that you cannot use notes on, and everybody has to memorize. While it is important that you do memorize it as you go through further math classes, because you are allowed to use notes on your assessment this year, you can write this down and use this formula when it comes to assessment time. I saw a hand going up and down. Kai, did you have a question for me?
No, it just had the box highlighted, and I was trying to get it to unhighlight itself.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to give everybody a bonus 20 seconds here just to absolutely make sure that you write this formula down. Again, you are making sure you are writing this down. X is equal to negative b plus or minus. There's that plus or minus sign. The square root of b squared minus 4ac. That's all under the square root. All divided by 2a. All right, and you may be asking yourself, Ms. Carr, in what world will I ever be able to memorize this? I don't know about you guys, but one of the ways that I have found helps me memorize things is to put them to song. I know, like, we sing our ABCs to song. Yeah. You knew it was coming. So there are actually a lot of songs to help you memorize the quadratic formula. I know that there's one to, like, the Michigan Fight song. There is one, I don't know. There are a bunch of them. Today we're going to hear the song to the Pop Goes the Weasel kind of song. Okay. And again, this is just to help you memorize. I know I still, in my head, when I'm saying the quadratic formula, I still sing the song that I learned in high school. So here we go. Brief interlude of the quadratic formula song. Here we go.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
All right, that last one, the harmony is a little bit weird, so I stopped it preemptively. But that is a good tool if you guys are struggling with remembering our formula. Always learning things to song is helpful. So if you want to know this, all you literally have to Google is quadratic formula song. It will pop up with this video on YouTube, and I'm sure you will also be able to find a bunch of other song alternatives if you didn't like this one. And we will be playing this periodically, this unit. Yay! All right, so let's go back to our quadratic formula. Now, what does this mean? How do I use it, Ms. Carr? What's going on? What this does, this will help us figure out where our quadratic, our parabola graph crosses that x-axis. And you can actually use this for any equation. So the cool thing about the quadratic formula, let's say you get to the test and you're like, oh my gosh, I know I have to factor here. I forgot how to factor. I don't know what's going on. You can use this formula for literally any quadratic. That's why it's called the quadratic formula. So if you forget factoring, you can just go back to this formula and you'll be good to go. You only really have to memorize one thing then. Okay, so let's do an example here. First thing, so we are on frame 7 of our Jamboard. Everybody following along, we're on frame 7. I'll put the Jamboard back in here just in case you're having a hard time reading that. There's our Jamboard link again. And I'm on frame 7. So very first thing we want to do is identify A, B, and C. I'm going to ask that you really stay focused through this because you guys will be doing a couple in a moment yourselves. So our first thing is that we identify our A, our B, and our C. So can somebody in the chat tell me my A value here? Thank you. Yep, my A value is 3. What about my B value, guys? 10 is my B, and my C value, anybody? Killing it. Thank you. Ooh, don't forget that negative. So we got A is 3, B is 10, and C is negative 25. Okay. Here we go. All the way through, we are going to plug in. I got my formula up here in the top right corner until we have it memorized, so it is there to reference. We are going to plug in our numbers for all of our A, B's, and C's that we see. So I'm not going to plug in anything for this X. So I have X equals, I got negative B. And again, I'm just plugging things in when I see those variables in my formula. So negative, I got negative my B value, which is 10. I got this plus or minus sign, and I'm going to do my square root. Now, underneath the square root, it's really important that you use parentheses. So here we go. B squared, my B value is 10. I have to put it in parentheses. And then I got minus 4. That 4, I'm right here in my formula. If you guys are like, where is she pulling this from? I'm right here. I got minus 4. I'm going to plug in my A and my C. And remember, we're going to use parentheses. So my A value is 3. My C value is 25. And these might be problems that you want to whip out a calculator for. Now, you cannot put this whole thing in the calculator and expect it to know what to do. You can't. So we are going to have to take it a little bit by bit. But when it comes to simple like multiplication and dividing, you can use your calculator to help guide you through that. And then we have this whole thing divided by 2 times our A value of 3. And then once we get it all plugged in, so we've done step 1, step 2, we are going to simplify this using the order of operations. Who remembers what the acronym for our order of operations is? Anybody? Oh, I know we know this. Thank you. Yes, PEMDAS. So we're going to use PEMDAS when we simplify this. Okay. So we don't see any parentheses. Well, we do see a lot of parentheses. Let me clarify that. Parentheses usually mean like a whole expression in parentheses. In this problem, your square root kind of acts as your parentheses. So we're going to simplify everything underneath our square root first. And if you're like, why? Here's our list of the order that we're going to simplify in. So here's our list we can reflect down to. If you are writing this on a separate sheet of paper, I would strongly suggest you get this example down and then you paraphrase a little bit of this. We get our steps down as well so you can reference this. Okay, so I'm going to leave this negative 10 alone. I'm going to leave the plus and minus alone. And I'm going to leave this 2 and 3 alone for now. I'm just simplifying what's under the square root. So I got 10 squared, which is 10 times 10, 100. Minus, we got 4 times 3 times 25. Does anybody have that for me? Working ahead, anybody got that number for me? Oh, and I just realized I forgot this negative. It should be negative. Yep, so Miss Carr messed up. It was a negative times a negative here. So this will actually be plus 300. Good job. Thank you. And we go through. Now I got so we did our b squared minus 4ac. Now I'm going to add or subtract the negative b. Well, let's finish up this square root. We're almost there. I got x is equal to, and I might run out of room. These are longer problems, and that's okay. 100 plus 300, that's just 400. It's a lot of writing, but it's just simplifying. It's nothing that we're not capable of. Square root of 400. Now, if you are using that calculator app or a graphing calculator, even your phone calculator, you might have to turn it sideways to get your square root. But they all have a square root button. If you're using the graphing calculator, you got to press second and then go down. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th button down. So you'll press second and then the 5th button down. And that's even on the calculator app. And that will bring up your square root. And our square root of 400, yes, absolutely, is 20. So we got x equals negative 10 plus or minus 20 all over 2 times 3. Okay, and I'm running out of a little bit of room. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a page to my Jamboard, and I'm going to move on to frame 8, and we're just going to wrap up the problem here. So I have -10 plus or minus 20 all over 2 times 3. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky because I have this plus or minus sign. So that means I'm going to have 2 possible answers, and I'm going to have to do 2 simplification processes. I'm going to have to do one with a plus sign and one with a minus sign. Now, before I do that, I can simplify my denominator. So I can rewrite this plus or minus 20 all over 2 times 3, which is just 6. Now, here's where I separate it. I'm going to rewrite this one time with a plus and one time with a minus. Again, because think about our quadratics. Most of the time, those parabolas, they will cross our x-axis 2 times. So that's why we have our 2 answers here. So I'm going to leave everybody, I'm going to give everybody about 25 seconds here. I want to know if we can get our answer here and our answer here. To do this, remember you're simplifying your numerator first and then dividing by your denominator. I'll give everybody, like I said, about 25 seconds here, and then I'll call on somebody to give me their answer. You're just simplifying this last step. All right, Kyra, let's hear from you. Kyra, did you get one of those answers for me? I don't care which one. Kyra, we're simplifying both of those. I want to know if you could turn on your mic, that'd be awesome. All right, let's turn on our mic. Let's work through it. Which one do you want to do? This one on the left or this one on the right? Doesn't matter to me.
We can do the one on the right.
The one on the right. Okay, you got it. So what we're going to do here, Kyra, do you have a calculator handy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to do this top part first. So I want you in that calculator to type in -10 minus 20. And tell me what you get.
I got -30.
What was that?
It gave you -30. You told me -10 minus 20.
Yep. Awesome. So I got -30 over 6. What does this line need to do, Kyra?
Divide.
Divide. So can you do -30 divided by 6 for me?
I got -5.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. So one of our answers to our quadratic is -5. That means at -5 on my x-axis, my parabola will cross. Thank you, Kyra. You did great. You can turn off your mic. Did anybody get this other answer for me? This one was not as pretty. Kai, you got this one?
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, what'd you get?
1.6 repeating.
Good. Yes. So if you plugged this into your calculator, you get a really, really long, ugly decimal. And I myself, I am more of a fraction person than a decimal person. So if we simplified this, we would get 1.6 repeating, or you could write 10/6 or 5/3. Any of those will work. And it's real life, guys. Sometimes we don't get pretty answers, and that just happens. We're okay with that. If you get some funky numbers, that doesn't necessarily mean you did it wrong. You just might have had more of a real world situation. So I have my 2 answers, and remember, we're going to write these with our little squiggly parentheses, and I'm going to put my smaller one first, so my -5 goes first, and then I'm going to put that fraction in here just because I'm a fraction girl at heart, but that 1.6, you could also write that in those parentheses. Perfect. All right, I'm going to pause. What questions do we have? Can I get a scale of 1 to 10 where we're at? I know this was a long problem, but at the heart of it, all we did was plug in A, B, and C, and then simplify. Okay, okay. I'm not seeing any 1s or 2s, so that is solid for me. Seeing a scary formula for the first time. All right, so what I want you guys to do, I'm going to move on to frame 9. I want you to try this one. So I got, if you're writing this down, which you should be because I am going to call on people for some help, we got 2x squared minus 4x plus 3. And if you need it, I have my quadratic formula up in that right-hand corner. I'll even put the Jamboard in here one more time just in case you didn't open it that first time and you're having a hard time reading it. You can go ahead and open it there. We are on frame 9, and I want you guys to try this yourself. So I'll give you like a full 2 minutes here because this is a trickier problem. Remember, you're plugging everything in. Oh, great question. So if it's a negative b and our b is negative, would we put it to a positive? Yes. So in our formula, you notice that this says negative b. Here, our b value is already negative. So we'd be plugging in like negative 4, which would change this absolutely, Kai, to a positive 4 right here. Good question. All right, I'll give you guys, like I said, about 2 minutes here, and then we'll call on some people for some help. A little bit more time here. Again, if you're still working, we are on frame 9 of my Jamboard, and I'm asking you guys to try and use this quadratic formula. It's in that upper right-hand corner of that frame. I want you to plug in all of those pieces of information to that formula and try and simplify for me. All right, let's hear from Miriam. Miriam, if you could unmute yourself, that would be fantastic. I wondered how you plugged in our numbers to our quadratic formula. Kind of if you could just rattle this off with all of those numbers inside there. That'd be awesome. We're on frame 9, Miriam. I want to know this quadratic. I want it to be plugged in here. You're not giving me your final answer, Miriam. I just want you to plug in all the A's, B's, and C's. Here, work through it. We'll work through it together. Unmute yourself. Let's do this. Let me rewrite my formula. And what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in anytime we see an A or a B or a C, I'm going to plug in that number.
Okay.
All right. So the first number we come across is a B. What's our B value in this formula? Or in this quadratic? Ooh, let's identify our A, B, and C. Maybe that's where it held us up. A, B, C. All right, our A value is the first number in our quadratic. What's our first number?
1.
Look again. In this one?
2.
2, yep. 2 is our A value. What about our B value?
4.
So close, -4. Don't forget about that negative.
Oh.
And our C value, what's our C value?
-3.
Good job remembering that negative. Awesome. Okay, so now that we've identified all those, Miriam, now I need to plug them into my formula. So help me out. The first one I come across is this, is this B. What am I going to put in that B's place?
1.
Look back at what you told me your A, B, and C are.
Oh, 2.
Right over here. What'd you tell me your B value is?
Sorry, -4.
There we go, -4. And we got plus or minus. Okay, I'm doing my square root. I'm just going through my formula here and plugging anything I see in. So now what do I plug in for my B value again?
-4.
Yep, we got -4 squared. I got -4. What's my A value?
2.
2. You see how I'm doing this, Miriam?
Yes.
All right, then what do I put next? I'm to here in my formula.
The 3.
Yep, our -3. Good.
3. Yeah.
And then we're all over 2 times what?
2 times.
Look where I'm here in my formula.
2 times A.
Yeah, what's your A value?
1.
Oh,
I mean 2.
sure. There we go. It's usually 1, but not in this problem.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. You can turn off your mic. You did great. The hardest part is plugging stuff in, guys. Once we plug in, then we're just simplifying. And a lot of this work, again, your calculator can do a lot for you. You absolutely cannot plug this whole thing in. You will get something that is not right. We don't even have a plus or minus sign in our calculator. It won't work out. But you can have your calculator kind of help chunk things for you. Do I have a brave soul that wants to tell me what they got underneath their square root here? If you do, you can use the little raise hand button so I know. Yeah, Kai.
I got 16 for
16 for a -4 squared. Good.
Yeah, and then for the other two together got me 24.
24. Yes. Good. We're getting it. See, we're taking it bit by bit. So now I divide. I'm even going to simplify by denominator because why not? I got over 4. Okay. We keep going. Now I am to, I'm going to run out of room here. Let me try and condense this a little bit. All right, so now I am on to this. I got 4 plus or minus the square root, 16 plus 24, that is just 40. Now, if I plug in the square root of 40, you guys might notice that I get an ugly decimal. 40 is not a perfect square root. If that happens, you can just leave it in square root form. which is actually less work. So when you plug it into your calculator, you're going to have a momentary freak out, and then you're going to say, wait, my life is easier now. Because what this means, I'm going to separate it into two problems. Because that 40 does not work out nice and pretty, I'm going to write 1 with the plus, 1 with the minus, and I can just leave it like that. You don't even need to simplify it anymore for me because we're not going to get an exact answer. It's not going to be nice and pretty. So you can just leave it there. And you don't oftentimes hear a math teacher say that. All right, I'm going to pause what questions you guys have from today. Yes, those would be the x values for your coordinates of your roots or your x-intercepts. Yep. Good question. All right, so what you guys are going to do, let me pull back up our week at a glance. You guys, really the hard part is recognizing where to plug things in. So you guys are going to practice that. So here is the link. It's a Desmos link, and you are literally just plugging in. I'm not kidding you. You're just plugging in A, B, and C to our quadratic formula. Because once you can get that down, simplifying should be a breeze. It's literally putting everything in the right place that is causing people grief. So in the chat, I just put the link for your assignment. You can start it today, finish it tomorrow, but tomorrow you will also have a Delta Math assignment, so keep that in mind, okay? And like I said, in your Desmos, you are just plugging things in. All right, are there any other questions before we wrap up today?